Hello, myself Sundar Ramakrishnan. And basically, this is 68th number formula part basically. So till now 67 basically we have discussed lots of things about the formula, and just in last basically we are discussing about the sales basically, how sales is connecting to the formula word basically, and attributes of the formula basically. So here basically we are going to see a little bit more about the sales basically. Till now basically in sales basically we have discussed the subscription part basically, that example I have already taken. Then basically we have seen medical part, how basically medical industry doing the sales. Then basically we have seen school formula part basically, and the R&D center of the India country basically, how the controls are getting kept by the government, and basically lots of things basically we have so here. Now basically we are going to see a little bit about the banking sector sales basically, what actually banking sector doing the sales basically, because without sales basically the product which is created by the directors, project created by the managing directors, by the vice presidents basically, that is not going to work basically. So basically strategic plan basically has to be decided, each and everything has to be decided basically. So here basically we will be talking about the banking industry sales basically. So what actually the sales is basically in banking industry basically, sales basically contains in each and every sector basically, but here in banking sector how basically sales are connected basically, that we are going to see. I will take one example every time basically, I take this example only. For one text box basically, thousand cities has created, right? So basically, thousand cities when it was getting created, when was before getting created, and when the plan was done of the thousand cities, that time basically the banks might have asked for the money basically, that we want this much money to create the this many part of the cities basically. So thousand cities it was created, few basically money was invested by the investors that are basically big businessmen basically, who keeps the control of the cities basically. Yeah, you can say basically if they want to achieve some task basically, then they basically can achieve that task basically, because it's a businessman basically. So businessman basically keeps the control like this only basically, by investing the money, where basically the banking sectors come into picture, the bank governments comes into picture. So like this basically, without any government permission you can't create anything, and without bank permission you can't invest anything. That is basically by default, because each and every investment controls are with the banks, but the on land creation basically, that control is with the government. So each and every sector basically have the controls with them, that also you can say. So each and every sector basically have kept the controls with them, and like this basically, here we are taking about the sales of the banking sector basically, how the banking sector has kept the control with them basically. So here basically many less people knows, many less software industry knows that the text box is created from the thousand cities. That actually very rare people know. That also we can say in software industry, for example, there are crores of people. Then basically from that basically 0.001% might be knowing that the text box is created from the thousand cities. So thousand cities is the creation, right? So basically, banking sector has kept the control with them. How basically? That is basically through creation of the product, basically. So by creating the product, for example, I will take one name that is basically text box banking product. So this is the product name given by the banking sector, global banking sector, basically you can say, which is basically who basically creates the product and sells the product to the each and every banks basically, give the targets to the each and every banks, and the banks sells their product. So here the product is text box product. So basically, text box product is one product basically, that is basically supposed to be sold by the, and supposed to be, it's basically is going to be selling by the software, by the banking sector basically. First basically directors comes into picture basically, they do the entire plan of the basically sales, which type of data basically they are available. So according to that data basically, they segregates the data to the there's their under people basically, that are basically banking managers, banking sales executives. So basically they do the follow-ups, And then basically the according to the few corporate sales basically, that basically directors only do. So they are basically big level sales basically, you can say. There basically most of targets gets complete basically, but few targets are supposed to be complete by the executives only, that are basically the calling executives and the banking sectors, banking groups basically, like executive of banking software, I'm sorry, managers of the banks, like this basically. This each and every sector, each and every branch have the managers, so they also have to fulfill the certain targets basically. So like this basically the targets are completed, and like this basically the each and every product basically has defined that description that this product is going to do this. But basically they directly don't say that it's a text box equal to thousand cities basically, because directly it's not possible to tell them to whether it's a text box is, whether the software industry whatever controls basically they are using, they are basically on the subscription base basically. This directly bank never says basically. That's why basically they are keeping the control with them basically. For example, Microsoft, SAP, Salesforce, PHP, Python, Python, and the Fox Pro, D2K, Visual Basic, ASP.NET, PHP. Then basically many to C is there, plus plus is there. Then basically Java is there. Then many basically many the base control base software creation companies are there, so they have to pay the subscription amount. On the basis of subscription amount only they are able to display they are getting display their text box basically. So text box is one universal control basically, which is invested by the banking sector, and which they basically keeps the control basically, you can say. So basically, they have designed the entire text box data. That is basically text box equal to thousand cities. So this thousand cities is designed by the banking sectors, by the banking directors, and on land basically that was created by the government group basically. So basically, each and every people have their own controls. Each and every people have their own ethics. Each and every people have their um, values basically. Like this basically, each and every things are controlled, and it's a union basically, we can say. So software industries have union. If anybody is getting problem from the software industry, that means it's a union basically, we can say. So like this basically the software is creating, the thousand city has created the text box. But here the union is not of the Salesforce, PHP, but union comes like this. Text box is equal to thousand cities, and this text box is used by each and every base software company basically. That is basically PHP, SAP, Salesforce, C++, C, Java, .NET. Like this basically Python, PHP. Like each and every base software companies are using this uh, text box, right? So here basically the union comes into picture. So there is no special basically text box created by but for the SAP, or special software created, special text box created for the Python, PHP, C, C++, Java, .NET. Like this, basically, special is not graded. It's a universe, and it's a universal basically text box. So basically, here basically it's a subscription basically, you can say. So related to this subscription, basically, banking sector knows that this is a subscription. On the basis of subscription only, the text box is able to display in the web browser basically. So this is basically sales basically, you can say. So this is basically sales for the banking sector also, you can say. The banking sector are doing the sales like this basically. Selling their products, created the product, created of the product on the land basically, and designed the entire product on the land, and creation done by the government basically. So the same way basically power sector also is there. So power sector of that, this text box is also designed by the banking sector. So basically each and every monetary control basically, that basically banks only have basically, because that's connected with the banking money basically. Because each and every software which is going to which is basically, you can say, the software which is going to be sell, and what would be the price, that basically price is decided by the banking sector. Why? Because they know the each and every investment which is done by the banking sector for the text box. So basically they know, banking sector knows each and every investment. So basically price basically of the software is totally controlled by the software, by the banking sector. That is basically banking directors and the banking groups basically who designs the products basically. So here basically we are stopping here. We are already with the 68th part, and 69th part we are going to discuss a little bit more about the banking sector and the sales and the formula word, and which has certain attributes, and attributes are equal to balance sheets.